Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. Today is Tuesday, November 21st, SIG Multicluster meeting. We're about to get started. Irfan, you're leading the notes, through the notes.
Okay, so there isn't much, I guess, to discuss today. So we might end up meeting short unless otherwise there is somebody comes up with some other points to talk. One of the points that we had in the previous meeting was about the subgroup, the Federation Working Group, dividing the same and starting or kick off the next meetings for it. So far I have seen Doodle Sync 9:30 PT Wednesday is the preferred time by people who have responded to that. If somebody else has some other preferred time, I think this is tomorrow, so I don't think we can change that now. I think everybody agrees to this, right? Okay, I take silence as yes. So yeah, couple of things. We will probably decide the agenda. Maybe we can have some pointers to the agenda in today's meeting. But
I'd just like to point out that I don't think that meeting tomorrow is realistic. I think the first meeting will be next week.
but if you see the, uh,
I'm not
do you
saying
see
we don't
this?
want to meet 9:30 Wednesdays. I'm just saying American Thanksgiving is Thursday. A lot of people are going to be traveling, so
No, what I mean to say is there is a set of people who have agreed for this 9:30 Wednesday tomorrow.
yeah, supposedly Paul is one of those. I don't actually think that people understood that was the intention. The intention was to pick a day of the week, not
Mm-hmm.
a specific day, if that makes sense.
Anybody else who differs with Maru? If that is the case, I am perfectly fine with this time every week. But I thought that is something that we will decide in tomorrow's meeting.
I mean, like I said, Paul signed up for, Wednesday, but he's gone.
Is it?
So I'm pretty
I
sure that he had the
I
same
saw.
understanding that I do.
Okay. I saw Paul joining today's meeting. Is Paul
He
there?
just sent a message on chat.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like he's not going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Like he's traveling.
Yeah, I think it would be better to I think we know the day of the week and the time. I think this week is kind of an exception because there's a holiday in the U.S. that probably a lot of people are going to be traveling for. So I would say that we should definitely meet next week. We only got 8 responses to this poll, it looks like, so it's not clear exactly how many people are going to be in.
That's fine. I mean, remember, this is just Federation, not multi-cluster, so the group is smaller.
So if people want to meet tomorrow, that is fine. I probably will not be able to attend tomorrow.
No, I personally can say that it is fine even if we start next week also. And if there are people from the group who actually selected the time, some of them are not able to attend. Probably it might be okay, but some necessary guys should at least be there. Red Hat, somebody should represent. Huawei, I know that there'll be a couple of people. I will be there. Shashi will be there. Probably Quinton will also join. Anybody interested from Google to join?
I was going to dial in as if Red Hat's present, I'll dial in. Maybe we need to be more than one company, I think.
Yeah, let's do this then. As Maru suggests, let's start it from next week onwards then.
That sounds fine.
Okay, so there were some points which I thought might be meaningful to bring up. We have completed that cutover or whatever that.
Yes, the move to the new repo.
Irfan, we can't hear you.
Yes, and they automatically get merged and all this stuff. But what we are seeing right now is that we don't have much of, especially reviewers. We don't have. There is a list of people who's there as parts of owners and reviewers, but I am not sure if all of them are actually actively participating. So would it make sense to have a relook at that?
Yeah, I think that's a good observation. I think right now it's heavily weighted towards, I guess, Google reviewers and approvers, and that doesn't actually reflect the amount of time that we plan on spending reviewing. So I'd probably propose two things would be to trim down the amount of Googlers on that list because it's not representative. And I'd probably motion to, at this point, I think the last time I saw we had a few people who were reviewer but not yet approver. At this point, I think they would be eligible for being approvers. Now, I don't have that list in front of me, but I think I remember Maru was not yet an approvers. So I'd probably, as part of the same PR of trimming down the list of people who should not belong there, I'd probably motion that a few people move up to approvers.
So Christian, would it be possible for you to just raise a PR with this, with your suggestions, whatever you think might be right?
Yeah, I can summarize this in a PR.
Okay. Okay. About that meeting that was supposed to happen tomorrow, I was trying to think about some agenda. One direct pointer was that we had a couple of meetings earlier, and there was the workgroup notes were maintained. We can proceed from that, or we can set up a new agenda. Any suggestions for that? This is the older workgroup notes.
I think revisiting the old notes and clarifying like what we still need to discuss is a good starting point. Most of the things that we agreed that needed to be done. I think that there needed to be follow-up that I'm not sure that happened or not happened, and that could be one of the first things we do is identify next steps in terms of planning.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing I would add is that I think that now that we have something that is approaching like basic usability for cluster registry, it's probably worth thinking about what the relationship to Kubernetes/Federation and cluster registry are.
Yeah, I think when we were having that discussion, I think that there was this idea that we were just going to vendor in cluster registry, and maybe that as cluster registry has sort of become a thing, maybe that's not a viable option because it kind of means that if somebody wanted a cluster registry and they would have to just pick it, they'd have to choose between Federation or cluster registry versus having a cluster registry that can be aggregated, and then you can you don't have to choose.
Yeah, I agree. The appropriate way to look at it is with aggregation instead of vendoring.
Okay,
although there will have to be some degree of vendoring. It just means that there's going to be, like in terms of having a client library, we'll have to figure that out. But it just means that we wouldn't actually vendor the whole server. We would just vendor the mechanisms to access the server.
Yeah, I agree.
So similar to that, just this past week, a few people have asked us how they could use it as an aggregated API server rather than through this CRNet mechanism. And right now, the docs are fairly thin on how to do that. So we plan on augmenting the documentation to show how to do that.
Yeah, and Ivan is working on a pull request to cluster registry right now to add to the CRNet tool a way to just set it up as an aggregated API server.
Oh, okay. So is there a PR out there already?
There is a PR, yeah. It's not ready to review yet, I don't think, right, Ivan? But it's getting close.
That's right, yeah. It is getting close. So I guess just stay tuned.
Okay. Do you think you'd have it up before KubeCon?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So I'll make a
Yeah, it's up already. I think that that Ivan's working through like the last mile of like it appears based on what I've seen that like the aggregation part seems to be working correctly, but now he needs to add delegated auth and auth z into the cluster registry API server for the whole shebang to work.
Right. Okay. Paul, you've done this through a service catalog in the past?
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So you're a great reviewer then.
I will definitely be reviewing it. I've pulled it and I've been using it and trying to jump hurdles. So yes, I will definitely be reviewing it.
All right. I'll make a mental note to maybe bring that up as a topic at the salon or the 2-hour block we have.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. One more point which I was discussing internally was that I saw a couple of PRs raised against Federation. Some PRs were there by new developers against Federation when it was in KK. What I wanted to know, if somebody is there in this meeting right now, passively listening or whatever, is there somebody who's willing to contribute? They can certainly sign up, probably by attending the next work group meeting that happens, the Federation work group, or they can directly I am on Slack. Okay. And what I wanted to clearly know was, currently, is there any problem? Because it's a little tricky to set up the Federation and say start developing something in it. If there is any problem, they can voice this over here. Okay. Yeah. From last time, I thought Jonathan might be willing to give some updates on that vendoring the libs in cluster registry, and he mentioned that he would be probably setting up a roadmap for the same. Is Jonathan there?
Yeah, I can probably provide an update if Jonathan isn't here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jonathan has gotten the vendoring stuff complete. We went with the DEPS tool to implement that. So the cluster registry repo now has all of the generated code and the vendoring stuff committed. So you can now build with Bazel as well as like Go commands as well. He's also gotten the
DEPS tool. Sorry to interrupt.
Dep,
By DEPS tool, you mean the Go DEPS?
Not Go DEPS, just the DEP tool. So not Go DEP. That's what the that's what Kubernetes.
The official tool from Go.
No, just
okay. You can update it. Which one? It
yeah,
is.
I'll
I'm
update it.
With the link. Yeah.
I just posted it in the chat if you're interested.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah. So that stuff is complete. So you can now do all the building and exploring in the repo without having to. So it can be also vendored in as well, since it now contains all the generated code and the vendoring code as well. He's also worked on getting the community docs, the PR merged. So the plan and the API for cluster registry has been merged. And he's spent time going through and creating issues to reference the things that we want to accomplish with pointers back to those community docs. There's also 3 new milestones in the cluster registry repo for alpha, beta, and GA, and those issues have been tracked accordingly to those milestones. So that's good progress there. And then, as was previously discussed, I'm working through getting the aggregated and delegated changes to the cluster registry, both in the Sierra init tool and the cluster registry API server. So the work in progress PR is up. If you want to like poke around, it's not ready to be reviewed, but it's certainly up.
Okay.
So those are kind of the latest happenings for cluster registry.
Okay, cool. So yeah, then next is CI updates. So this is an update about the Federation CI. So there used to be a SOAP job for Federation, which we have removed right now. Does anybody see the need of the same or usage of the same, so that usage of resources versus the utility of the same? Any comments somebody might have?
I always have comments on testing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to prioritize, and I don't think SOAP is a high priority. I think there's other supportability issues that are more important than worrying about scale. I think one of the biggest things that we need to address in the near term is to have automated validation of the most recent version of Cube that we can vendor based on the state of the staging repos. At present, we can't automate that. There's it's just a manual process to determine what hash of Cube repo we could use. But fixing that is probably, I think, the #1 priority, because if we have that job, that'll minimize the potential for Cube breaking us for an extended period of time. We'll discover it quickly and hopefully fix problems quickly.
Okay. So just as an update, currently the pre-submit and the CI job, the pull job, both of them validate Federation against the latest of KTS. And Shashi is currently working on this second point that you mentioned, such that the Federation API can be validated against a particular hash of KTS. So, Shashi, you have some update on that? You want to talk about that? Is Shashi in the meeting? Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, so I think the CA job currently does validation against the latest commit from Kubernetes right now. So we are going to make a resubmit job to validate against vendor Kubernetes instead of latest Kubernetes commit. So that's that change I'm going to work in the coming week. Probably that's the one I think Maru is talking about, right?
Not quite. There's kind of two parts, and what you're talking about is necessary. You're talking about the member clusters that we're going to be targeting. I'm talking about the version of the Kubernetes repo that we're vendoring. So we need to handle both those.
Yeah,
is what you're talking about, right?
Sorry, say again?
So you're mentioning basically the API machinery that we vendor into.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that actually sort of depends on the finalization of how KTS keeps those repos in staging and in sync with actually the KTS IO / say, for example, API machinery.
Well, I mean, they're pushing it. The requirement is that we need them to publish the SHA that's associated with a given push to the staging repos. And I talked to Dr. Stefan about that. We just need a place to publish those results. And it's not there's definitely more work to be done on the staging repo side. That's all I mean. And that'll take a long time. But the short-term fix is simply being able to automatically discover which versions of Kubernetes in the staging repo we can safely vendor.
Yeah, and we were thinking about it, like why not we move from every point release we do a vendor? Will that be a very less frequent thing?
We can do that, but because we're essentially chasing head, that means that we're always on a lag. So maybe that's a good stopgap, but I would say ideally we're going to want to, maybe we don't want to re-vendor like against head all the time, but we want to be able to test against head as often as possible to detect breakage.
Yeah.
And so it's not like we want a vendor, we need to be able to know which versions of Cube and the staging repos we can safely test against, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we can talk more about this offline also. Yeah, we also noticed that some ingress tests, validated ingress currently works for GC, and some of those tests are broken. And they have been so since quite some time. Although they are not necessarily a priority for us right now, but if somebody is willing to volunteer, or if somebody wants to have a look, and uh, uh, just please check them.
To me, I guess I think of Federation as an effort needing to focus primarily on stuff that isn't cloud specific. And then we need maintainers for the cloud specific functionality, because that requires both expertise and resources. The past, Google's been maintaining that, and they've had the expertise. It's not really clear to me where we go in the future if they're not going to be maintaining that. And it may be that we have to look at integrating whatever tooling they intend to support their customers separately from Federation, like Nikhil's work on an ingress configuration solution. Maybe we'll have to just reuse that, because then we'll have something that's supported by Googlers.
Okay.
Right now, the current status of the Federation ingress controller, we're obviously not investing any time in it. For the purpose of the dashboard, I guess that begs the question, what do we do with it? Let's see, do you have in terms of timeline, has it ever been green in a state after it's been moved out of the repo?
Even before that it was red. So it has been like that since I think more than a month and a half, and we have been just ignoring it.
I think continuing to ignore it is the path for now. And like I said, I think that if we can find a solution where we can reuse integration that Google's actually willing to support, that would be ideal. So I'm not sure we don't have enough resources to be cloud specific at this point.
Right. I'd also note that federated ingress right now is only implemented for GCP. So like turning it off and saying it's not supported is not harming any other non-existent implementation.
I think the goal also, we also have integration for federated services for Google DNS and Core DNS and Route 53. I think a near-term goal needs to be enabling extension for things that are cloud specific, so that it can be done out of repo. And if someone cares to implement it and support it, it can be done without burdening the core effort by things that it's not general. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
I'd also note that the way that federated ingress works on GCP makes it very hard for integration testing. There's really no good framework for it. So if you want to build up a more solid core code base, it's really always going to kind of be in the way.
Yeah. Okay, we can also run the tests without running the ingress tests, right? That can also be, if anyways we are not going to do anything about it as of now, rather than having those tests red in the grid, it could be like not running those tests, right?
Right. I think I'd support that, changing the tag on the test so that it doesn't get run.
Or just skipping them, either way.
Yep. I could LGT on that one if you put it together.
Okay. Okay, so PR issues this week, we don't have any specific which need attention. Yeah, this was the salon at KubeCon, which we have a reserved slot. Is there something in the last sync that we had, whoever was attending or whoever was willing to attend, what probably compile what they are going to present, maybe put a link over here. I'm not sure. Christian, are you taking the lead in this or somebody else?
I guess I can do part, or all of it. For the SIG update, it's only 30 minutes, so this would be covering what we've been doing in cluster registry, explaining that there's kind of a two-part effort now. There's a federation only and a multi-cluster kind of broader effort. And given this short update, I think I can speak to what's going on in federation. I'm less worried about that. Of course, if Quentin's there and he'd rather speak for what's going on in federation, I wouldn't mind if he took that part. To me, the bigger unknown is the salon and what we want to make out of that 2-hour block. I see a lot of it as depending on how much we get done next week in the Federation Working Group. I think most of the time should be spent for Federation Working Group. I don't see any raised blockers or any blocking issues or PRs in cluster registry. There's really only 2 people working on it right now. And I'm not sure they're going to be present. Jonathan will not be there. So basically it comes down to, do we use this 2-hour block efficiently, given that not everybody's there, or do we just kind of cancel it or get together? What are people's opinions?
You know, we could maybe take a roll call and see who's actually going to be there, but I share your concern that if we don't have adequate participation, we can informally meet, but having, I don't know, I mean, the challenge with in-person meetings, it's really productive to have lots of bandwidth and be able to meet face-to-face, but the downside is not everybody can be there, and so you can't actually make decisions. You can only kind of, you can work through issues, but then they have to really be presented back to the larger group, like in the next video call, and then you'll like actually make decisions. So
reading through some of the other stuff that I see out there for what other teams are doing with their salon time, it seems like some are providing a more detailed update to the community, and also allowing folks an opportunity to work with the technology hands-on. I don't know, you know, who's going to be there that could support that. I can certainly help, and I'm willing to help out if we could at least agree on what it is we want to cover.
I see. So I hadn't thought of it that way. If it's to be more useful for the community and not necessarily for the active members of the SIG, then yeah, I agree with you that we can make a larger event potentially better use of that time. I've never been at KubeCon personally myself, so I don't know how much external interest there is for a particular SIG's inner workings. Do you anticipate that a lot of people would just show up?
I'm not sure there's precedent. I mean, I was at KubeCon the last couple of years, and I mean, last year there was a lot of presentations during the main conference days, and then you had kind of an unconference day where it was mainly just developers, like not really users. So I don't really know. I think that they're kind of evolving it, and I'm not sure anybody has experience with how it's evolved in this iteration.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I've been to all the KubeCons, but this is going to be the biggest one ever in terms of attendance. So it's going to be tough to gauge, you know, how many folks would be interested and what the right topic is going to be for the audience. That's going to be tough. I think what we'll find with so many people attending it is possibly a lot of folks that could use the more, you know, level 1 type talks, but I'm not sure, you know, we'll just have to see.
I mean, I think that I would hope that there's been enough. I mean, people have been sort of excited about Federation's potential in the past because it's been sold pretty well, like in the regular conference talks. I mean, if we could actually get users who have, you know, feedback, input, whatever, on what they would like to see, not just from like just in a multi-cluster context. I mean, the common complaint is I have lots of clusters. I have difficulty managing them all. There's not really any community-supported way to do that. Federation maybe isn't what I want, or maybe it is, but I guess I'm this is asking questions for me, like how do we actually know who's going to attend, what the number is going to be, what type of users or developers they're going to be. Is there any way to find that out? Are people just going to randomly show up?
I think we could see who is listed as added it to their schedule, but that might not be representative of who actually shows up, Sometimes people will put something in their schedule and then decide not to be there, and then you can also see a lot of people that just show up that haven't put it in their schedule. So personally, I think this is a good opportunity for us to highlight what it is you can do today and what our vision is of where this will go, and potentially drive more development into our SIG or SIGs. So I think we should at least make an attempt at showing something cool and telling folks how they can get engaged.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a good opportunity. And I guess maybe it can just be a little bit fluid depending on who shows up and what they want.
You seem pretty enthusiastic, Dan.
I'm happy to put more work into it and try to put together a straw man of what we should cover and then review it with the group. I'll take that on and try to get it done this week. But if you have ideas, please let me know too, because my own ideas might be different than what you guys think we should cover. So I was thinking something like, if we can show people how to use Federation or multi-cluster just with Minikube, something really simple that we know wouldn't require a lot of external dependencies, then that would be good. But I don't know how possible that is. So.
Yeah, I can also, support in, for example, there could be a simple hands-on which says that this is how you can deploy the control plane, or this is how you can actually create a federation, join those things. Most of the stuff is there which is there in documentation, but probably users didn't try it out.
Yeah, but I think the point that Dan makes, which is valid, is demonstrate. There's a lot of demos on Federation, but at least what I'm hearing with Minikube is demonstrate how it is possible, if you lower the barrier to development entry, to get more people to hop onto the bandwagon. I think that's a compelling story.
I think,
Okay.
when I've been doing local testing, I don't use Minikube because OC Cluster Up is frankly a little bit nicer on a Linux box, but it's the same thing where I bring up a cluster, I deploy the control plane to it, and then I join the cluster. Yeah, it's not, spreading load or dealing with multiple clusters, but it's the simplest possible, deployment of Federation. And it lets people sort of use it. So just, being able to do something that simple and get people, to get their hands on it, then they can really wrap their heads around it, rather than a demo that maybe fires their imagination, but it's not really grounded in reality and they're not interacting with it themselves.
Yeah, personally, It doesn't matter to me what tool we use, as long as it's something easy to get people started locally. If OC Cluster Up is a preferred method because Minikube just would be too painful, that's fine with me too.
No, I shouldn't. Sorry, I'm not trying to advertise for Minikube. I think is probably a better solution for people who aren't OpenShift savvy. It's just if you know it, it'll run on a local Docker on a Linux box versus Minikube. They only run in a VM, so it just adds overhead for a developer. But for a user, I think Minikube's a better option.
Has anybody tried the parameters to Minikube where you can create multiple named copies of Minikube locally to see if you could federate between them?
We
should work pretty easily. I haven't done it, but I didn't realize that was supported now.
If you wanted to get crazy with a demo, I mean, it sounds like we don't, but in the event that you wanted to explore maybe some interesting microservice application, I do have a Pac-Man demonstration that's documented on running like Pac-Man, the web-based Pac-Man application that's federated across different cloud providers. So you could either do like GKE, or you could do AWS and GKE, and it's even documented with Azure, even though there's some DNS issues with Azure that have since been fixed. But
that might be a good thing to show as, like one of the walkthroughs that they don't do themselves. Like here's something really cool that you could do with Federation. Where instead of like having them walk through it, I'm not opposed to doing that. I think that highlighting something like that would be really cool for people to see, live in person, something like that working. But I think as far as them running it locally on their laptops or trying it themselves, it might be a little too complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're interested, let me know. I can point you to the docs for that.
So it sounds like we're hinting at a collection of demos. So for all the people who spoke to a specific workflow or project or deployment, would you all be ready, if present, to just go one after the other on stage to present it?
My only request is that if we actually have people in the room who want to, present use cases or, discuss how they'd like to see things evolve, I'd really like some time for that versus just presentation style. I mean, to me, not that it's not valuable to give people, an idea of what we can do, but maybe just not the whole block of time.
Good opportunity for that collaborative feedback too, right?
Yeah,
but,
totally.
But I agree, Maru, you don't want to spend the whole time doing that. Okay, well, I'll try to gather some of these ideas together and rough out an agenda, and then send a link out and see where we can take it from there. Who will be there? I know I will. Do we have a list of who else will be? Obviously, Christian will. Ivan, I saw your hand.
I'll be there.
Maru? Yeah.
Yeah. Unluckily, we won't be there. I and Shashi won't be there, but I guess Deepak and Quinton would join from Huawei.
Okay. I guess once we get the agenda, I'll try to get, I think somebody in CNCF maintains the description of what the sessions are. Dan, the fact that you knew what the other sessions we're doing was probably speaks to the fact that they are promoting their sessions better. So we'll try to get an updated description.
Okay. So let's move on. So then we'll put out a small proposal, and people who are attending can probably collaborate on that, right? So yeah. Next point was we are thinking about cutting the Federation release at the same time as the 1.9 KTS release. So is there any specific pointers that we need to separately talk about this? Like KTS maintains a proper release process, and there are roles which actually are taken up by people, and set of issues and all that stuff, which is marked for that release. But here we don't necessarily have that, because we are sort of carrying over what it was, say a month back, and releasing the same binaries in the same shape, and probably some bug fixes in. So any other suggestion apart from that? Like we'll be able to cut out the tar files, and we'll probably able to find out a bucket or a location which is public, and we can publish that this is where the binaries are. Apart from that, is there anything else do we need to take care about this?
I think the technical requirement for releasing is vendoring to the state of 1.9, but other than that, I think it's just procedural. And I guess there hasn't, I've kind of talked in passing with people on the release team about this, but there's no real plan for coordinating release of sub-projects with Cube. So we're kind of pioneering that here. And I'm assuming that's true for, cluster registry or anything else. I guess I'm not sure cluster registry is intending to, really have the same requirement of compatibility that Federation does, but anyway, all that to say, like we can put the files somewhere. I was just, there's a certain amount of coordination that goes on, around the release artifacts, around blog posts, all that sort of stuff. I mean, arguably in the future we'll want to lag Kubernetes a little bit just so we have time to catch up, and then we'll probably want to do like our own blog post on the Cube blog, like, hey, Federation 1x is now available, compatible with Cube 1x. I don't think we have the option of just riding on Cube going forward. Maybe this release we could, but like maybe we could just ask them when they're posting the blog posts, they could say, oh yeah, Federation is here too, and just have pointers to the release artifacts or something.
Okay.
But I don't know, I've been kind of hesitant to want to drag the release team into thinking about that because they got their hands full just trying to stabilize things right now, code freeze and all. So maybe when things have settled down, they're just waiting for things to clear, we can harass them a little bit.
Okay, that makes sense. And in case we don't have any specific requirements directly, to collaborate with the person who's writing the blog or putting it up at the same place, we can always have a simple blog for Federation as saying that the releases here or whatever additional features are there. Right. Yeah, I think this got answered. Is cluster registry planning? I think Ivan already told that you guys have probably set up alpha, beta, and GA kind of milestones already, and you would be probably following that, right?
Correct. Decoupled from Kubernetes.
That's right.
Okay, I think this is what I had listed. Anything else somebody wants to talk or discuss?
I was just wondering for the cluster registry, what the where those issues are sort of coordinated. Is that just like GitHub milestones, or is there, you have to know the spreadsheet to find out when a release may or may not get cut?
Yeah, so the milestones are on GitHub, so they're just GitHub milestones, and then the issues are tracked and linked to those milestones. So you can get it on the cluster registry GitHub repo.
Awesome, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, guys. So I don't have anything else.
Okay, thanks, Irfan. So we meet. Next meeting is the working group meeting next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, yes. I'll send out. One more thing, Christian. So when you send out a calendar invite, do you send it out to individual email IDs or you just send it out to the whole Google group?
No, it's not the Google group. There's a long list of essentially individual emails that I've inherited when somebody copied the invite to me.
Okay. So either will it be okay with you to send out meeting notice for this one, or just forward that list of email IDs to me? Either of that is fine with me.
I think if you just send it to the mailing list, should be fine.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. Okay, guys. Have a good day today.
All right. Thanks much.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Bye.